Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. In our first story, cheating students thought they had me fooled. They fell right into my trap. Let's jump right in. So I am a cancer researcher and a guest professor at a university's School of Medicine, teaching my specialty, imaging. Besides the usual acquisitions of medical images using MRIs, CTs, etc., imaging has a lot to do with image processing. Some days I am just a glorified programmer, IT guy. And as anyone who has ever programmed anything will tell you, coding is a very personal activity. With enough experience, you can tell who wrote what just by looking through the lines of code. I am also in my late 20s. I am not native to this country, and it's my first year as guest professor. So because of this, some of my students look at me as this inexperienced, gullible foreign guy. As part of my module's grading, the students have to submit 2 reports. Each report is worth 10% of the student's final grade. These reports are about image processing, and because of that, they have to code a fair bit. As is typical in education, there are students that make an effort, some that do minimal work, and then some that cheat or copy. As I was grading the reports, I noticed a small group of students who had obviously found reports from previous years online and then literally copy and pasted those reports. The only thing that they changed on them was adding their name. It was a facepalm moment for me because those reports were not even good. They were riddled throughout with lots of errors. You see, in order to establish a baseline for my grading, I had to browse the previous year's reports just so that I would know what to expect from the students of this module. Naturally, I graded all of these reports with 0 and then kept working my way through grading the reports I had left. Meanwhile, time was passing. The students were casually asking me in the halls how the reports were. Of course, I couldn't comment on that until I released their grades. One time, one of the students who had copied from another report, 98% match on plagiarism checker, asked me when I would be releasing the grades. He spouted this story that he had worked really hard on his reports since he needed good marks on them in order to bring his grade up. His exam hadn't gone so well, and he is hoping that the grade on his reports are enough to get a pass. I mean, submitting another person's work on your own is very wrong, but since it was an online submission, it was very impersonal. Right now, he was standing in front of me, lying through his teeth to my face. I could feel my blood boiling, but I didn't lose my composure. I decided to come up with a plan. My exam was the last exam of the semester. After their final exams, the students usually went home or off on family vacations while they waited for their grades to be posted online. So I graded the exams and input their report grades into my Excel sheet. 4 of the students had received a 0 mark due to cheating on their reports. If instead of giving them a 0 mark, I graded the reports giving them 50% of the max grade, they would just barely fail the module. But they would fail nonetheless, so it was on. In order to be fair, I bumped everyone else's grades. A number of people with miserable reports ended up barely passing because of my grade bump. But even though their reports were bad, it was their own work and not copied from anywhere. You see, students are entitled to make an appointment to review their grades after publishing and before the grades are locked in for the year. Basically, they sit with me, we go through their exam and the reports. Their goal is obviously to convince me to give them extra points in the hope that they will get enough to pass the module. I knew the cheaters would come. After all, they think they fooled me once already, and they still have half of their report's points to bargain for. So I just waited for their emails. Lo and behold, on the same day the grades go online, they start emailing me to say how hard they have worked on their reports, they don't understand how they only got 50%, etc. And they wanted an appointment with me to discuss it. I was ecstatic. Sure, let's have a meeting to review your grades. Do you remember that my exam was the last one of the semester? Well, that meant the students were already on their vacations, some very far away. They begged me for online appointments, but no can do, university policy. Moreover, the students have 3 days to show up for an appointment, otherwise their grades are locked in, which is also university policy. So here they come, cutting their vacation short, catching planes. Some spend hours on buses and trains to make it to the meeting on time. I know what many of you are expecting. They come, I simply show them the plagiarism checking results and reveal that I know this is not their work and then send them on their way. Well, I considered that, but I had something better in mind. The review appointments usually take 10 minutes. I show them their work with my notes saying what's wrong and what's right, and the students try to find some inconsistencies in my grading so that they can bargain for more points. I wasn't going to give them that opportunity. Mwahaha. One by one, each student sits with me individually. I go through their exam and reports. If you remember, the students copied reports that were filled with a lot of errors. I asked them questions, lots and lots of questions. Why did you do this? What was your reasoning for this? They don't know, it's not their work, so they just mumble random stuff because they don't know what to answer. Point by point, mistake by mistake, I explain why their report was wrong, how it should have been done. I am lecturing the same material that they had already been lectured on during class. I make it long, I make it boring, I make it painful. I spend hours with each one of them throughout those 3 days. They always came back at me with the same thing. I worked so hard on this, while giving me a little smirk on their face because they thought it should be really easy to fool me, the gullible foreigner again. As the hours go by and I am walking through their errors one by one, I could see their expressions change, little by little, their hopes of passing being slowly crushed. And each got to a point when they realized that I knew they cheated and I wasn't going to give up any extra points. At that point, they would try to cut short their appointment and leave, but I wouldn't let them. We need to finish the review of your grades, it's university policy. And I just kept going, extending their misery for another hour or two. It was legal torture, plain and simple. It was glorious. At the end, every single one of them left with a crushed soul look in their eyes and a fail in my class. They knew that I had caught them, that I had baited them, and they had fallen for it. They ruined their vacations and their families' vacations, spent money to travel back and forth, wasted precious summertime, got bored to death, and at the end of it all had nothing to show for it. And next year, they will have to repeat the module with me. I hope you enjoy your summer. See you next year. Here are some edits. This was in the EU, not the US. I did take the matter to my boss, who is their course director. He told me not to report them because the university wants to avoid the risk of any kind of legal action at any cost. I couldn't even accuse them of cheating. Edit number 2. Also, for those worried about my bumped the grade things, I made a judgment call to bump some grades of some students who had a good exam and the report grade was pulling them down. They clearly knew the topics and studied, their report was just not very good. So I decided that given that if it wasn't for the report, they would pass, to bump it a bit to allow them to pass. Most of them went from failing at 49% to passing at 50% on their overall final grade. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and make sure you click on the notifications bell so that you get my videos. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.